We have a session today on fan engagement, and I think when I was asked to sort of participate as part of this panel, the first thought was, okay, what's been my journey as a fan? And as I was telling Yannick just some time ago that I've been an ardent Manchester United fan, and back in the day, all that you did was, of course, you used to watch their matches on television, discuss it with friends, maybe read a occasional report on one of these websites. And that was it. Then of course you had a journey of you were able to access maybe merchandise and other facets to sort of know more about the club, its history, what kind of style they play in, etc. But one thing that also struck me was I remember as a child, I would see my father and he would watch us watching sports on TV, and after a point he would lose interest. And that started happening with me on certain sports as well, in terms of whether it's cricket, whether it's tennis, all sports I used to watch a lot of. So I think the point of keeping fans engaged and sort of pulling them, drawing them back into the sport and keeping them, opening new facets of information to them and personalization, I think that's what I think a lot of businesses are up to these days. And I think we have a panel of experts who are here, who will sort of hopefully give me a lot more insight into that. And maybe just to start off, I think I'll just ask a general question in terms of, what are your views on the modern sports fan? What do you think they want, and how are you sort of looking to keep people engaged? Maybe I'll start with Yannick.
Yeah, sure. The thing about the modern sports fan is not different from sports fans generations ago, right? It's constantly evolving. And I think evolution of a sports fan is just behavior. The one interesting thing I think in the last 20 years and more in the last 5 years that we've seen in sports fans is the importance of time. And the correlation of that is the amount of the lack or the shortness of attention span that the younger sports fan, I won't say modern sport, the younger sports fans have. So that's something that everyone across, whether it's the co-product in sports, which is the game, and if you look at today, cricket has launched T20, 20 years ago, which was actually addressing this, which is shorter attention spans. Major League Baseball, tennis have started shot clocks, where they are kind of hurrying the game along. So there's product development for those sports fans, and there's obviously products that we develop which are consumer facing, which also has to address that. So I think the attention span and dealing with the tremendous amount of stimuli that every fan has. You have, while you're watching a game, you have notices that pop up, news that pops up, calls that come, your socials are going crazy on various amount of things. I think that is one thing which is most unique about young sports fans in this environment.
Great point. Yeah, Abhishek.
So apart from what Yannick said, I think what we have seen in our journey, fans also want similar kind of tech in their, like when they are playing, just like international cricket. And because of penetration of smartphones and cheaper data options, I think that a lot of it is possible. So, for example, they want scorecards just like international matches. They want their stats just like Virat Kohli. They want to also have like those stylish photographs, and then their cricket profile in those stylish photos, etc. They also want to live stream using just a mobile phone or whatever other cheaper options are available. And then like now, I believe a lot of them also want highlights, which are generated automatically for them on our platform. So just by looking at the data of participation of fans in CricHeroes along these features, I can easily say that the appetite for better technology has increased a lot amongst fans.
Alok, you have any views on this?
Yeah, I think taking on from one of Yannick's points, one of the things that we deal with today is abundance of information and scarcity of attention. Yeah, because there is just so much content to consume about one particular thing. If you're watching a game, you're watching it on your TV screen or your mobile phone, but you're also keeping tab on the scores, or on X if you have a friends or community or platforms like CricHeroes. I think getting people to focus is becoming a big challenge. The coming to the point of fan expectation, the expectation is everything should happen near real time. The instant gratification piece is like, I think it's going to another level, especially with quick commerce. Like this year we started doing 15-minute jersey deliveries during the season. Now the next only thing that is left is I put a machine in the fan's home and I start sort of customizing and manufacturing it at their place. I don't know what the next piece is going to be, but this getting hyper instant gratification sensitive is kind of an industry challenge that we will all have to deal with. I mean, Yannick and I, we were just in the backstage, we were talking about unit economics and how this can really work. But that's where we are at, and I think as an industry, we'll have to find a solution to a challenge like this.
Amitabh, any views from your end?
No, I think it has been summarized quite well, fine. So if you look at the fan of today, he's got mobile, fine. We all know that he's attention deficit. There is content being created in like surplus. Now, at this time, because we provide the technology to do that, so I think personalization to the consumer, to the fan, in the right medium that he wants it, in the right time that he wants it. Your time that you might consume that content might be morning, mine might be in evening, fine. So we have to personalize on the device. We have to personalize on who he is he old, is he young, who is he following. And I just think that tech comes in a very big way to solve what we are all talking about.
Well, that's a great point, Amitabh. In fact, that leads me to my next question, because it was actually going to be about what are the kind of technologies that you've been using to sort of engage more with your fans. I think, Alok, you already mentioned this 15-minute jersey delivery, which is definitely a unique feature of our lives today. But anything else that all of you are using in your businesses? And Amitabh, I'll circle back to you in terms of how your business is able to support them in the development of these tech.
So I think from FanCode, I think the question that you kind of pose in terms of technology that you actually use is, again, the insight that Abhishek shared with us also earlier. There was a survey which was done on Gen Z, right? And it said that 55% of people in Gen Z consider themselves creators. Right? They actually consider themselves content creators. It's amazing. I don't know if any of you live in Bombay, but when I go for a run every morning or in the evening on Bandstand, there are tons of young people hanging around, but they're all shooting something. Like they're all doing something. They're doing like something really fun or whatever, which is obviously they're creating content for everyone else. And that's really interesting. So technology for us, when you look at the opportunity to build fan engagement, it's a question of actually meeting those two, which what we spoke about earlier, which is instant and the ability to be able to add your voice. So we talk about, when we first started streaming cricket, we saw that on an average T20 game, young users came in and out in a 3-hour T20 game 9 times. Right? Came in and out on a mobile phone, sorry, not when they watch on connected TVs. And the reason is because even a T20 game has lots of breaks. So we said, how do you keep a user engaged? So what we started doing was using the same screen and landscape mode and use overlays. In the overlays, you started providing statistics. Everything happened. Wagon wheels, Manhattans, worms, you started providing them to be able to keep them. We created real-time highlights. As an event happens, you can actually, instead of waiting for the producer to give you a cue saying, here's highlight, you can actually watch the highlight when you want. We started creating social feeds, which you could actually watch on top. So keeping both these pieces in mind, I think this is something that we are constantly using in terms of how can you use existing technology to be able to meet those needs of a fan, which is instant gratification, at the same time give them an opportunity to create their own content by facilitating their opinions. What does stats do, right? When someone talks about, Virat Kohli got this edge and got out in BGT, this is the 5th time it happened. It essentially gives the fan an opportunity to express his opinion on that. Then you create a meme where someone showed bats of Virat Kohli with cutouts of it, and everything comes from that. But I think that's as technology, as a streaming platform, and obviously as a sports merchandise platform, our job is to find ways to use technology to help fans express themselves in that near-time kind of scenario.
Yeah, just taking this point ahead. So what we have done exactly to satisfy the need which he said, we added a lot of gamification from the beginning. So, like obviously when you score a match, professional grade scorecard is a given. But what else you can do on top of it? So we started giving man of the match or player of the match awards after every match. Best batter award, best bowler awards. Then we started unlocking digital badges. Right, so for example, if you hit a 30, you get a badge. If you take 3 wickets, you get a badge. If you take 3 catches, you get a badge. Now, these small content do two things. First of all, they recognize their efforts. Right, everyone likes to be recognized, especially if you're in a sport. You would like to get recognized for your effort. And there is also ready-made content which you can push on your social media. Right, so just the way he said, 55% of Gen Z consider themselves as creators. We kind of gave that fodder for them to create content on top of what we gave them. That was one. And I think second, leaderboards have worked really well for us. So again, leaderboard is obviously a type of content which works really well, because it puts me in perspective of others, my peers, etc. So at a tournament level, there's a leaderboard. City level, there's a leaderboard. State level, national level. So if you want to know the top batters of Bangalore, if you want to know the top batters of Delhi, you can know that now in leather ball, in tennis ball, in T20 format, in T12 format, everything. Right, so basically slice and dice of all those content has also created a lot of engagement for us.
Nice. Alok, any thoughts do you want to add on to that?
I think for us, the biggest theme that we really adopted very well in 2024 was Gen AI. And I'll probably take 2 or 3 examples of what worked really well for us. In fact, the most recent one was the mega auctions happened in towards the end of 2024. And we released a film which was featuring our entire squad, and it was done in a fairly Rajasthani royal style. That entire film was made on Gen AI. I didn't need any of my players to sort of shoot anything. And within the sort of sporting ecosystem, it was quite a viral film. My edit and my production, I would say productivity has at least 3x, 4x because of what we are able to do with Gen AI. Another little thing which we did as an experiment last year, which we will scale up in a big way with our partners FanCode here, is last year we started sending out Gen AI generated messages for jersey customizations, wherein each person would get, like Abhishek would get a message from Sanju Samson saying, "Hi Abhishek, why don't you get a jersey with your favorite name and number?" And we suddenly saw our customized jersey request spike.
With some Gen Z terms.
For that, we'll have to go to the audience. I mean, the interesting, I just crossed 40, and in my team, I'm the oldest guy. Like, on my entire business side, we in fact have one of the youngest professional CEOs in the IPL as well. So most of the guys in my team are all in their early 20s or their early 30s. So it's a very young team, so I look up to them for all of the Gen Z terminologies. The other thing that we did, which was, again, a very interesting experiment, which did so well that we had to pause it, which was, again, Gen AI-led, wherein we allowed fans to upload their selfies on a WhatsApp bot. And those selfies then generated 5 different stickers for them in 5 different poses, modes, etc., which were kind of cartoonified stickers, which they could then share with their friends. And we were working with a tech partner in this case, and we had a certain budget allocated, like all of us have to allocate certain budgets, right? And in the first 3 days, there were 12,000 stickers being created, and we had to pause because it was going to just go way above our budget. So again, something that we want to scale up in a big way going forward. So yeah, last year, I think the big theme was Gen AI, which we will see scaling up this year. What happened very interestingly is the adoption of Gen AI, the way it happened. I think when Gen AI came in, it was largely Chat GPT, and it was more so people trying to brainstorm things, and it was very knowledge focused, I would say. Like people trying to not do Google searches, but asking questions to Chat GPT. So from Gen AI being just purely Gyan AI, which is very knowledge focused, I think it has expanded its tentacles in every possible domain and area that we can think of. And as I said, I only see this theme amplifying and growing further.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. And I think Amitabh, maybe you've heard from the business folks here in terms of what they are doing. Now, in terms of you are, of course, supporting them at the back end with the technology and with the with the cloud support to sort of make all of this happen. So maybe if you can give us your insights into what goes into...
And it's the right time, because from Gen AI, I can just take it forward.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, it's basically, if you look at it from the AI space, what's happened is because the compute has become much more powerful, much more cheaper, and that's actually accelerating. And that's been accelerating for quite some years, but now what we've seen is with compute being able to do like this whole new industry of large language models came in, on top of which you are able to create content by itself. So you don't actually have to go and somebody has to go and create that content. The content could be photographs, it could be images, it could be summarization of something, fine. So if you are watching a match and you want to quickly see every hour what the highlights were, right? That could not have been done earlier. But today, beautiful highlights can be made every single hour. It could be made of fielding, it could be made of catches, it could be made of anything, fine. Now, the point that we made is that all of us play cricket and all of us want our own highlights. You could even do that, fine. You can spend X dollars or X amount of rupees for watching highlights of Virat, but not for mine, fine. But now AI can just, I have a match in the evening and my parents are watching and it's a competitive match, but my highlights can be done and my grandparents or somebody can actually see it. So there is fan following of mine also being created. It's not only a fan following of Virat, fine. All of us can also have our own fans, fine. So with tech, the opportunity is very, very big. And, I'll just take it little outside cricket, if I have this thing, and we discussed that. See, you take golf. In the last 2 weeks, something miraculous has happened, fine. Golf, as we know, has played in large fields. It's an expensive, this thing. 3 people behind it, one is Tiger, Rory, and then PGA, have just recreated golf with entire tech to be played in a stadium. Now, that creates a very different fan. He doesn't have to walk. He can sit and watch golf as a sport, fine. So I do see sports creating new fans, creating more attention. And I think for any sport to do well, you just can't lose a fan following. And I think tech is going to make sure that fans keep on compounding, not even increasing.
No, thanks, and very insightful about how golf is taking steps as well. In fact, I think over the last decade, I think I was reading a study which sort of indicated that a lot of sporting franchises, at least in the States, were losing out on fans, and numbers in stadiums were coming down. And I think they've had to resort to a lot of the kind of techniques that you've spoken about already to try and get people back in. And just in terms of surveys, I think there was a YouGov survey that also talked about how 47% of Indian sports fans today look to consume their sports intake via social media, as opposed to, say, a 33% global number. So I think Indian fans are also flocking to social media to try and sort of get the latest updates and, of course, collaborate with other fans. And, Abhishek, maybe I'll just come to you with my next question, because I think what's a phenomenon that has also taken off is the creation of, fan-based communities. And I think how they have been helping, keep, of course, fans engaged, but also getting in new fans into the sport. I think so. As a business, do you facilitate the coming together of communities, and do you sort of take any proactive steps to sort of take measures for, enhancing your visibility to those communities as such?
So yes, so one of the ways we are doing it, so we have this very little feature called looking. So I'll just share a recent example. So one guy moved from Hyderabad to Bangalore, and he used to play regular cricket in Hyderabad, but then obviously Bangalore is a new city for him and everything. So then he put up a request on CricHeroes saying that, hey, I'm looking for players to play, right? And then one player replied. 2 players replied. So slowly he started building his cricket team. And once the cricket team was built, right, in a month or 2's time, after that he posted a request saying, hey, we're looking for an opponents to play, right? And then they found opponent to play. right? So that way, like he was able to build a community of cricketers, like-minded cricketers, who can, like play in his team and, who could also find opponents to play against. So like this, we are able to create micro communities around the game of cricket, and not just for the cricketers, but also for the, like custodians of the game, like match officials, grounds, academies, all of these grassroots grassroots entities associated with cricket, they all form this community, right? So the same module can be used for these entities as well. So for example, hey, I'm looking for a ground to play. Hey, I'm looking for an umpire to hire. I'm looking for a cricket uniform manufacturer, right? So all of these requirements, which were probably getting filled, and even today, a lot of them gets fulfilled via WhatsApp communities. Like slowly, those communities are, like also CricHeroes is also becoming a destination for those communities to interact.
Great example. I think in terms of, and maybe I'll just come to you, Alok. Have you seen, I mean, obviously merchandise has started playing a big role for all of you. In terms of innovations like NFT and blockchain, those things, have they had an impact on your fan participation?
So, sadly not from a fan participation from an India perspective, but I'll give you a very interesting example from the world of motorsport. I spent I spent almost 7-8 years in motorsport in the UK. And I think when the first set of NFTs were getting launched, there was it was basically a part of a large hype cycle. And I think most people got into it for more speculative reasons than utility reasons. But what we saw very interestingly, and do we have any gamers in the house? No gamers? Just maybe me. So I think the big unlock happened when we were actually launching a team-wide or a league-wide game in Formula E, where I used to sort of work in. And the NFTs actually were the assets within the game, which is the race cars. And so you could actually have the ability to own a race car within a game, and which is very, very interesting as a model, right? And we remember when we sort of went live with this, within probably 6 or 7 minutes, all the 24 race cars were sort of sold out. And if you actually follow the gaming community closely, the big play of NFTs in the world of sport, especially, I think, will come from gaming than anything else. There is a little bit of a play, which is what happened in India in cricket. Pretty much all IPL teams signed up to different NFT partners. We sold a little bit of player cards, etc., etc. But I think on the other end, it was not so much of a burn on the end of the teams, but on the other end, the guys who were providing that tech, they were not able to really successfully monetize that for two reasons. I think there were some regulatory hurdles as well from an India market perspective. But I personally feel that once the dust settles from the hype, there is a big opportunity from an NFT and gaming convergence perspective. From NFT and a player trading cards, so many of us might have played with those little cricket cards and trump cards in WWE during our childhood days. So take that digitally, and so that's what Abhishek was talking about from a community perspective. I mean, earlier I could just play with my cards within a small room with a small group of people. Now I have actually an international community that I can play with my cards, I can trade with my cards. So there could be definitely some values that get unlocked doing that piece for sure with the NFT and the blockchain piece. Slightly on the blockchain piece, what we are trying to do, and again, it's a little nascent. We're also looking for the right partners to be able to deliver something like this. But we've been, for the last year and a half, trying to look at how we can create the largest cohort of anonymized sports fans. Like, we've got about 16, 17 partners that we work with. We've got brands like Red Bull, we've got partners like FanCode, we worked with CricHeroes on a bunch of things. Why can't I create an anonymized sort of data lake of sorts where all of these sports fans are there, and all we need to do is, we are essentially doing that data sharing amongst each other, wherein they can access our fans and vice versa without giving away any personally identifiable information, but done in an anonymized manner. You're essentially doing away with the layers of the Googles and the Metas of the world by doing something like this. But for something like this to be done at scale, a lot of industry guys need to come together. As I said, tech is still nascent to be able to do something like this. But yes, I mean, personally, I'm quite bullish on that.
Great. Yeah, I think regulatory hurdles are, of course, there. But I think as a technology, if blockchain, if you're able to sort of make use of, I think that's certainly something that we can look forward to. I think, one question, of course, is, and, in terms of challenges that organizations face, when implementing new technologies. I think we've already spoken about, say, NFT, for example. But I think, when you are looking to implement these technologies, and Alok, you rightly said, when you are trying to sort of promote those stickers and, you have budgets to work with. Now, in terms of some of these technologies, I'm assuming can be fairly costly. And I think just in terms of whether it's, cost, whether it's adoption, whether it's privacy concerns. I mean, as a lawyer, one of the first thoughts that goes to me is with the kind of, data or, which is generated from users as well. I think there are lots of privacy concerns that come up. And so in terms of for organizations to sort of keep that in mind and of course, be on the right side of the law when looking to sort of make use of these technologies, what are some of the challenges that all of you are facing, if you have any thoughts on that?
So I think the government is setting up a clear, I think the biggest challenge that everyone has in regulation and in data, especially in the sports, will always be in lack of clarity, right? No, but it's true, right? In a sense, so I think this DPDP, that's what the government is. I think setting up a regulatory framework which is clear, articulate, and expresses exactly what you need to do is the biggest boon that the industry can get. And I think the government is doing that, and I know that a lot of organizations have been giving feedback on this, but I think that is the most important. We were talking about this earlier, right? Who owns data? I mean, we run different businesses and we were having an argument about who owns data. So the fact that we ourselves can't agree is a concern. And I think that clarity in terms of how you can use data, what the requirements are, what boxes you need to build to protect that data, I think that's something that is extremely important for us and every industry in tech.
I think monetizing the user base will be, at least for us, it has been a challenge. Obviously, we are solving it to a certain extent, but over the period of time, and it's completely up to us. It's not to our users. We need to figure out how do we give those products which offers more value, which people are ready to pay for, and pay a good amount and not just. So I think monetization, apart from the regulatory constraint, monetization is another challenge which we face as a business.
Alok, anything you want to add? Because
I can add to the monetization part because, and we in fact are just building a team that's focused primarily on what we are calling community commerce. I think the next big unlock for us is going to be community commerce. And incidentally, Sanket, who's the CTO of Sports Interactive, they are our partners in building this. So I think so far we have been restricted to what we can offer to our fans. Merch is one thing, tickets as experiences, but the stats that you're talking about, where 47% of people are actually going to be digitally consuming content, what can we do? So the first experiment that we actually started, the reason I call it experiment is because, so I think because it's not done at scale, but something very unique. We're trying some behind the scenes content, which we're making available to fans on our YouTube channel for 29 rupees. And there are takers. So we want to see how much we can scale that. We want to see if this can eventually move into our webinar app ecosystem, where there is a little bit of a paywall. See, we've got the entire spectrum of offering is a freemium offering, right? There is a lot of stuff that we give away for free. But there is something which we can identify a small cohort of fans who are willing to get access to something that nobody else has access to, either in terms of time, like we want the first to get access to it, and we see that people are willing to pay for it. So the current experiment that we're running is around the auction, like the mega auctions just happened. So it's essentially conversations between the coaches in closed door rooms on what the strategy is going to be for the auctions. There is a small group of people who are interested in that. But we need to identify many such hooks and many such plugs and see how that 29 can go to 290 and 2,900, et cetera, et cetera. And the exchange also is very meaningful exchange. It's not just looking at the term is not monetization, but value exchange that we can create. We are giving something to our fans that they do not have access to. It's nobody else has access to, but there's a small group within a larger cohort which we are giving access to this. So this is the one big thing. And the second is really looking at long form content, purely focused from community and storytelling perspective. We'd run a small set of content series with Dream 11 2 years ago, wherein people were really interested in the backstories of players. Where did Yashasvi Jaiswal come from? What's his family background? So that's again like getting into slightly long form storytelling. Where will that content rest? How will we sort of monetize that? That's really the next stage.
Yeah, so I actually think pickleball is a sport. So there are two parts of every sport, right? And we sometimes in the business get confused with the two. There's participation and there's following. So pickleball and participation has gone through the roof, especially in metros. Pickleball, paddle, the sport that's really, really increased. Golf as participation also is growing a lot with more courses and stuff. I think what's going to be really important to see how that translates to following and viewership. And one of the things that I've seen, at least in my experience, is the main driver of following and viewership, especially among younger audiences, is less the sport, it's more about heroes and stories. So, we were having this conversation, Gaurav Natekar is launching this World Pickleball League next week. And we were talking about exactly this. He's got 45 players from 45 different countries coming in. How are you actually able to tell their stories? And that's really what's going to be able to connect with audiences. Because one is the sport, I enjoy it, I watch it, it looks really good. I understand the rules. So understanding the sport is one. The second, a very important part is going to be how you're able to tell stories about that and hook people and get engagement. I think it's exactly what CricHeroes is doing, right, in cricket, as we were talking earlier. One of the important things for participants and for Gen Z and younger audiences, they want to create content. So I think when everything you're talking about streaming, you're talking about sharing content, all of it is essentially technology gives you that layer to be able to create more virality around it. Like think about it, like 25 years ago, we'd be all sitting playing pickleball in a group and then telling each other about our scores, telling each other now you can actually put it up on various platforms, you can share it. And that's not just for pickleball, every sport. Obviously CricHeroes does a great job of it in cricket. And that's exactly how you amplify and build sports and communities.
Maybe I'll just go in with a last question on, if I was to ask each of you maybe one piece of advice that you would give to organizations looking to innovate their fan engagement strategies, what would that be?
I think digital platforms play a huge role, right? So I think one of the in one of the earlier panel discussions, somebody commented that even the IPL teams, why are they not working on, let's say, building the like fan profiles on their own platforms rather than kind of outsourcing it to Instagram and Facebook, right? Which is definitely a hard problem to solve. Of course, it requires a huge investment in tech and like a dedicated team and all. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that you need to own the digital infra or digital platform if you really want to build that fan or build that community around it. You have to own it rather than like depend on some other. Obviously, you can take help from like obviously everything gets spread on Insta and WhatsApp and Facebook. So that thing is always there. But like how much of it, the entire experience, you as a company or you as an organization can own, will be a key thing, according to me.
Got it.
Yeah, I think from two perspectives, right? I think one from the owner of the game, the federation, the rights holder, whatever. I think evolution, constantly evolving with consumer needs, is not like it's not optional anymore, right? It's a question of survival. I mean, cricket, for everything that everyone says about cricket being true traditionalist and stuff, cricket has evolved immensely over the last few years. I mean, look at the fact that besides T20 cricket, there are subs on cricket. There's so many things there. So that's really important. Evolution is really important. From a product perspective, a consumer product for fan engagement and stuff, I think the biggest challenge is to be able to identify, as Abhishek said, what problem you're solving for. And investing, we follow this concept of design thinking, right? Where we actually spend most of our time trying to understand what, and asking, if you ask him what problem you're solving, the answer is going to be very straightforward. It probably may not be the right answer of the product you should build. So being able to find what problem you're solving for, then understanding that, hey, the problem is not already solved for, and why should I be solving it? And then the third is also trying to separate the two from, which is novelty, from something you can actually build a business on. GenAI has allowed, we keep talking about this, so many things that you can do, but understanding what you can do, which you can actually take to consumers quickly, and what you can do to actually build a business around, that's something that's going to be really important in terms of problem solving.
Yeah, that's great insight, because often something looks innovative and new, but may not be sustainable from a business perspective. So that's certainly very sound advice.
I think you have to be, from a skill perspective, very data-centric, right? You can't take a fan granted. Different sources of entertainment will come. There is limited time everybody has, and time is a premium. So attention, we've all got a phone, and as quickly our attention goes to our phone, it is there. So I think personalization is going to be very, very key. Right? And tech plays a huge part in personalization. So be data-oriented, understand personalization, understand that your fan has other options. Fine. So how you innovate is going to become very, very critical.
I think just only one point from my end is, how do we make everything more inclusive? I think that's really critical for us. How do we make sports more inclusive? Why does it only have to be about cricket? I mean, FanCode's done a great job in sort of bringing in a wide variety of sports in, but inclusivity of sort of expanding the ecosystem, even within cricket, for example, within each of the sports, I think when we talk about inclusivity, somebody who does not have access or the monies or the means to go and watch a match at the stadium, how do they get things easily in the palm of their hand? Some problem that Jio has solved by kind of making it free right now. I don't know how long that'll go on. But how do they still have the same kind of access that a fan in a metro has? So just how can we make the ecosystem more inclusive? So any innovation that focuses on getting inclusivity in is something, at least that as a sports franchise, I can tell you would get lapped on very, very quickly.
I don't see any questions coming. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, guys.